Hi, today what I'm going to use is Dreamweaver for FTP. And Dreamweaver's an okay program. I wouldn't buy it if I didn't get a real screaming price on it. But the bottom line is it's something that you need to know because it is a pretty decent content management system, and it's great if multiple users are using the same site. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you first how to set up a site. So we're going to go Site, New Site. Now the settings for this are going to be on our Note 10 for CIS 133 or Note 3 for CIS 233, because those are the two classes that I use it for. And also I'll use it for e-commerce, but I don't remember what the note number is on for that just yet. So I'm going to do a Control C to copy this, and then what I'm going to do is I've got the information there, so I'm going to call it site. I'm going to call it CIS homework. There we go. Oops, I misspelled it. And then I got to tell it where to go. And I'm using the D drive, so I'm going to go to D, Classes, CIS 133. Now I'm selecting this folder because all my directory structure is going to follow this. So this is going to be my root folder that I will be mirroring up on the web. So I'm going to use that to select that folder for CIS 133. Now that's the easy part. Now here's where we start setting up the servers. So what I do is I come over here, I add a plus sign because I want to add a server. I'm going to call this e-commerce. I'm going to be using FTP over SSL implicit encryption. That's the main thing. So I got port 990. This is where I have my FTP address. So I do a Control V. And then my username, which is my first initial last name. And then my password. Now, this is where it gets tricky, and I always forget to do this. I got to say none for authentication, so don't trust my server. I would think it should work, but for some weird reason it doesn't. I've got a valid SSL certificate from GoDaddy. I don't know what the issue is, but it's just one of those things I've had a problem. Now, since I am going directly into my space for this user ID, which is Jay Storsley, I have to put in the path to it. So it's CIS 133 / Jay Storsley. There we go. Now, if I had multiple classes that were using the web, like Animate and e-commerce and CIS 233 all at the same time, then I would have to put the exact path here, and then it would automatically fill it in for me right there. But since this is the only class I'm taking with this user ID right now, I have to put in the full path. So the vast majority of people, this is what you have to do. It's just a rare few that are taking multiple classes that have to add that. So that's why I'm not even bothering with that right now. So what I want to do is I want to hit test. And it's saying, hey, I've got a valid certificate. That's great. So I hit yes. And then it says Dreamweaver connected to your server successfully. That's great. Now, if it didn't, the first thing I would check is to make sure you got the proper address. Now, I always copy and paste, so the only mistake that I could possibly have is a little space in there. But if you manually typed it in, shame on you. Be lazy like me, copy and paste it. That way you make sure that you don't make any silly mistakes. Another possible mistake is having the wrong FTP source. So it's SSL implicit encryption. And then double check to make sure it's your first initial last name if it didn't work. And then make sure this is a password. Now, if you're using a server, or a computer at home and multiple people are using your computer, you might want to uncheck this so they can't accidentally get in there or intentionally get in there. But at school, what's nice about that is our space is locked down to your username and password, so you don't have to worry about that at school. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit save right there, and that's going to be my remote server. I could also set it up for testing too, but for right now I'm not going to do that. Now what I should notice over here is it should open up the files, and it should have a listing of all the files that are sitting on that directory that I told was going to be my root directory. Now another thing I can do is I can come up and check my remote server, so I can select that, and this is all the files that are sitting up on my server. And the nice thing about that is I can tell, because of the slash right there, that hey, I'm up on the web. So remote server versus local server. And I'm going to jump back down to local view. So now if I am working on a file here locally, let's go homework, and I'm making some changes, and oh man, I've got a lot of work to do on this homework file. Let's try this homework file. Aha. If I want to add some or make some changes right here, that's very easy. And I got a broken picture right there, so I need to work on the path for that. But what I'm going to do is, if once I made some changes, oh, there we go, there are all of them. What I can do is I can send it up by going put. And then if it worked properly, it should have been updated. Well, I haven't changed anything, so I really should change something right here. So I'm going to change it from 11:29 to 11:30. Control save, put. Now you notice that it's done some work right there. How I can tell is I click down right here. It says I have a total of 1 file set up. Homework put successful. Oh, we're very happy. You can tell that I was working on this file on 11/11/2018. So I'm very happy with that. I'm done. Now I've got all these settings. This is awesome, because if I'm using this at home, I can redo it over and over and over. If I'm using it at school, what I can do is I can go Site, Manage Sites. Now one of the things you're going to notice is I've got a lot of different sites already set up. So this is my latest site, so I can jump around between different sites. But I want to make sure I save this site, and right now it hasn't been saved. So what I want to do is I want to hit Export, and then I'm going to back up my settings, including user ID and password, and pass. And I can click on OK, and then I want to make sure that I have it set in the right spot. So I'm going to go in classes, and then I'm going to call a separate folder called settings, so I don't accidentally send this file up. I can then double click on that settings, and it creates what we call an STE file. And this is very nice, because what I can then do is I can come home and use that STE to log in to my server. The only difference is it may not necessarily have a C web dev and your first initial last name folder at home. So what you'll have to do is it's going to ask you for a setup folder, and what you do is you just put the path where the current files are sitting that you want to use for your homework at home. And if you remember, I set mine up here in my D drive, so I'm not using a C web dev. I'm using a D classes CIS 133 for my folder. So that's how you set up Dreamweaver, and that's how you change it. Now, if by chance I have some files that I want to send up, like CSS, I can click right up here from the folder and put. If I want to get files from my remote server, I can click on it like this and get. So that's the difference between get and put. It's going to say, hey, do I want to overwrite that? Yes, I do, because I want to have the latest and greatest. One of the things that I highly recommend that you do is you work on your files in the classroom, send them up, and then when you get home, download them. And vice versa, when you're working on files at home, send them up, and then you can work at them in the classroom. And that way you have a copy in the classroom, copy on the web, and a copy at home. And obviously if you don't have a home computer, then just use a flash drive. If you do use a flash drive with that STE, please do not save your password, because it's too easy to use and somebody could hack in and literally take your homework. So that's how to set up a site using Dreamweaver and how to send up a file. It's really simple. One of the other nice features about Dreamweaver is I can come down here and validate. And I validate the current document and it will say, hey, I've got a problem. Ooh. Font size, too many values or values not recognized. Oh, so I got a warning, but it's not. Oh, it is an error. Ooh, I better double click on that. It says note 13. Ooh, I got a space. There we go. And let's current document again. Perfect. So that was a good thing I decided to validate it because my homework file didn't work. That's one of the big mistakes that I've noticed a lot of people doing is leaving a space in there, and I'll be honest with you, I'm just as guilty as you are. That's why you always validate your web pages. So good luck with Dreamweaver, and I'll have a little bit more snippets on how to use it in a bit. Thank you.